everybody. My name's Sarah, and I'm going to be your host for today. And welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast. Today we have 22 classes joining us from all across North America, around 345 students joining across the cameras here as well as YouTube. So it's a good group we have. And today we're going to be going to the Toronto Zoo. So we're going to be hanging out with some of the animals there and getting to learn more about what goes into taking care of all 3,000 animals that call the zoo their home. And today we have Mary Ellen with us, and I'm going to be bringing her in. Hi, Mary Ellen. How are you?
Hello, Sarah. I'm very good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for joining us. We're really excited to be hanging out at the zoo and getting to meet some of your animal pals. Do you want to just go ahead and I can put up the land acknowledgements on screen, or what would you like?
100%. Yeah. If you'd be able to bring up our land acknowledgement for us here, we can read that and then we'll get started with our program. So first, we would just like to acknowledge that the land that we are standing on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nation, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We would also like to acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississauga of the Credit and the Williams Treaty, signed with multiple Mississauga and Chippewa bands. Thank you so much, Sarah. So as Sarah mentioned, we are standing here in the Toronto Zoo. Specifically, I am in the African Savannah section of the Toronto Zoo. And I know it doesn't look like much. I've got a wall behind me here, but we do have some very tall friends behind us that we're going to get a chance to learn about and kind of what goes into running a zoo. Now, if you haven't joined us here before, I have done many programs with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. They're one of my most favorite things that I get to do here at the zoo as an educator. And we've done lots of programs throughout the school year. We do one a month currently. And this is kind of our final program of the school year, getting ready for summer break. All of our animals are outside, loving their best life out in the sun here today. And so this is an opportunity for you to learn more about how a zoo runs. I have some of my most favorite colleagues here with me today, and in a few moments, I'm going to actually turn the camera around on them, and they're going to tell you a little bit about what their job is, how they got here. So in case you are someday wanting to work at a zoo or learn about how to maybe be a part of a zoo and you're not sure if your skills or talents relate, I can almost guarantee you they definitely do. We are like a mini city here with all of our different jobs and different things that are needed to keep such a large, massive facility like this going, and our animals nice and happy and healthy behind us here. We've met keepers, we've met our welfare team, we've met our reproductive team, we've met nutritionists here in the past with our videos with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. But today we're going to meet some of our other departments that are maybe more behind the scenes and learn what they do here at the zoo, how they got here, and if you want to work at the zoo as well someday, you can ask them some questions. So I know we have a lot of friends with us here today. And Sarah, I know this is actually our first program here together, which I'm very excited about. But we love questions back and forth. So if anyone has any questions throughout the broadcast, feel free to shout them out to us. We're going to give chances after every person as well, in case somebody has a specific question for that job or that interaction. And we're going to have the giraffes here behind us as well. And feel free to ask me questions about the giraffes. Happy to answer them as well. So without further ado, I've got some friends here with us, and we're going to start off with none other but who I refer to as my zoo twin. This is my colleague, Emily, and I'm going to turn the camera around on her here, and you're going to get to learn all about what Emily does here at the Toronto Zoo. So let's just turn our camera around here for us, and there we go. Emily, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Mary Ellen, for introducing me. So my name is Emily. I am the HR coordinator of recruitment here at your Toronto Zoo. So a really fun way to describe my job is I like to bring more people to the party. So I oversee bringing new faces into the Toronto Zoo, hopefully one of yours someday. So I support everybody at the zoo here. My main function is to support our HRBPs, which are human resources business partners. So each client group that exists at the zoo has a designated VP in which I support. Therefore, I support all the staff at the Toronto Zoo. Very fun. So that's kind of a fun little fact about my job as well, because I work in the admin building. So as Mary Ellen mentioned, most of us are behind the scenes. I am most certainly one of those employees. So I work in a building that's off-site. And again, main function, just supporting all of the staff. I also support with our seasonal hiring period. So that is a huge hiring period where we bring on about 400 seasonals. So that's my main function in terms of recruitment, offers, paperwork, making sure they have a flawless onboarding process, and then just maintaining them while they're at the zoo. So my journey here is kind of a broken path. I actually went to school for animal care, believe it or not, and I worked at an animal hospital for 6 years. So suffice it to say, I have a huge passion for conservation science and animal welfare. That's kind of what led me to the zoo. So I loved my job at the animal hospital. Unfortunately, it wasn't sustainable for my future. And I kind of shifted gears and I got into the corporate world. So I started as a receptionist, moved into HR assistant, and then I moved into recruitment. And that's when I found a wonderful posting on LinkedIn for the Toronto Zoo. I applied, I went for it, and I got it. And that's my journey to the zoo.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Emily. And we are so grateful to have you here at the Toronto Zoo. And as Emily was mentioning, she works a lot with our seasonal hiring. We're going to meet a few seasonal staff here in a moment, but there's lots of jobs here at the zoo that only exist in the summertime. So if you're between high school years, maybe university or college years, there's lots of opportunities out there for you if you have an interest and passion with working with animals and conservation. Now we'll give an opportunity here. We'll focus on the drafts for a second, but we'll see in the questions if there's any specific questions for Emily before we bring in our next guest as well. And who we have here with us is Kiko and Mastari, two of our Maasai giraffes, or our two Maasai giraffes here at the Toronto Zoo. And don't you worry, we'll learn lots about them as well as the program goes on. But Sarah, do we have any questions for Emily before we switch to our next meeting our next friend?
I don't think so. At this point, everyone's just ready to learn.
Perfect. All right. Sounds good. We are going to bring up our next two friends here. So these are actually two staff that work with me in the Learning and Engagement department, and we'll let them take it away.
Hi everyone, my name is Maya and I'm one of the Zoo Camp group leaders here at the Toronto Zoo.
And hi everybody, I'm Hannah and I'm also a seasonal group leader here at the Toronto Zoo Zoo Camp.
That's right. So we only work here at the summer, just as Emily was talking about. But I actually started here at the zoo as a Zoo Camp counselor, and some of you might have come to Zoo Camp before. The reason I wanted to work here is because I want to be a teacher and I love working with kids, but I wanted a job that worked outside and I didn't know a lot about animals. So I wanted to come learn all about animals here at the Toronto Zoo. What about you, Hannah?
I'm also going into teaching, Maya. I started working here last year as a group leader, found the job because I wanted another camp job. My mom used to work at the zoo long ago and I wanted to have an experience just like hers. Being a camp counselor is something I've always loved, and this job really found its way to me, and I'm so happy I'm here. Getting to learn a bunch of facts about animals from a background that doesn't really come from that has been so incredible, and the experiences I've had here in my job have really made it something memorable.
Mm-hmm. So if any of you are coming to camp this summer, we're so excited to see you. Make sure to come and say hi, and thanks for watching.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Maya and Hannah. Fun fact as well, I am actually Maya and Hannah's supervisor in the summertime when they're here. It's a great time. And I also started very similar to Maya in 2016 as a camp counselor. So there's a chance that friends who are watching our broadcast, that Maya and Hannah have been their leaders here at Zoo Camp, or I have as well. How fun. All right. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to bring in our next friend. Any volunteers? We have a lineup of people. We're going down the line here. All righty, here we go.
Hi guys, so my name is Ezra, kind of similar to the two that you guys just saw before. I am a seasonal position as well. I work as a bush camp guide leader, so I deal with all the overnight super fun summer programs that we have here, where you can actually stay overnight at the zoo, learn a lot about our different animals, do a lot of different tours as well. So it's a really fun, unique experience that if you guys haven't been, I encourage you to come and check out. A little bit about me and my background. I have a kind of interesting background that you wouldn't think would fit very well into a zoo. But the skills that I learned in that background really helps me with this job. I actually worked in film and television for about 7 years. So it's a very people-focused job, which is pretty interesting. And I was able to use those skills and take them into this job, which again is very people-focused. So I don't have much of a background with animals or sciences or anything like that, but I was really able to use those skill sets that I was able to build and bring them into a different and really unique field that I'm loving as well.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much, Ezra. And don't let him fool you here. His animal knowledge is top tier. In fact, one of the programs that Ezra here runs, they actually do behind the scenes nightly with our giraffes behind him here as well. So he's been up close and personal with our giraffes many a times this summer and many more to come. Thank you so much, Ezra. All right, and as we're going down the line here, we have Rebecca up next.
Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca. I work in the retail area of the zoo. I started at the zoo in the rides department, so I did all the Zoomobile commentaries and all of the fun little rides that were around the zoo. And now I take care of all of the plush and all of the inventory, and I help merchandise all of the stores here at the Toronto Zoo. I started here about 11 years ago, and I've really worked my way up. I originally went to school for science, and then ended up taking some business courses, and the job of the inventory merchandising clerk came up, and I thought it was perfect.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rebecca. And Rebecca and I actually get to work very closely. We do work in the same kind of building. The Zootique gift shop is right next to the Learning and Engagement Center here at the zoo as well. All right, we've got 2 more friends, maybe 3 as well for us to meet, and then we'll keep going.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chris. I do graphic design here at the Toronto Zoo. It pretty much involves making all the signage or wayfinding. So if you're ever here and you see an animal sign, I probably worked on it or made it, but it's a really fun job. It allows me to connect with all different kinds of departments here, from wildlife care to exhibit design to even retail, to work together and make a sign. So I get to meet a lot of people at the zoo. I started at the zoo as a Splash Island attendant. As a university student, it was just a summer job to help make money. And then as COVID happened, I kind of switched careers over to graphic design. I went to college, and there was a job posting here for a graphic design. I applied, didn't think I would get it. But next thing you know, here I am 3 years later and doing graphic design here. And it's been fun and I love it. And if anybody watching has like graphic design background or wants to get into graphic design, the Toronto Zoo or a zoo in general is just an amazing place to do it, especially if you love animals.
That was a paid actor there.
It's a really great way to mix different kinds of interests. If you have interests in science, animals, conservation, and art, it's a great place to kind of mend those together.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I love that as well. You don't think of necessarily a zoo being a place where you can have that maybe creative outlet. Here, a lot of times we just think about the animals, but the graphic design. And our next guest as well is going to talk a little bit about the creativity that we have behind the scenes here.
Hi there, my name's Kirk. I work in exhibit design where we naturalize habitats. We create a lot of enrichment as well. My background is basically I started here in 2017 in the carpentry department. I then applied for a job in the exhibit design department. I got that job and now I work for exhibit design. A lot of, like Mary Ellen was saying, there's a lot of skills, a lot of departments like electrical, welding, plumbing that you wouldn't think we would use, but we do use, and those departments are very vital. Even if any of you are sitting there thinking, I know how to sew, that's a great skill to have. A lot of times we're weaving hammocks, we're making paintings, we're doing stuff like that. So any skills, when people have come into our shop, there hasn't been a single skill people haven't had that I thought can apply to our department. If you're great at math, we have to mix epoxies, paints, everything. Working at the zoo is very dynamic. Every day is different. Tomorrow, I have no idea what I'm going to do, but we support each other. Every staff helps each other. I rely on the carpenters, the electricians, the plumbers, the keepers. A lot of times when the keepers ask us to make something, we'll sit down with the keepers and we'll talk to them. They'll say, you know, this animal weighs 450 pounds. Can you make a hammock? And I'm going to say, are you going to use it outside or are you going to use it inside? How heavy is it going to be? It's a very dynamic and exciting place to work.
Amazing.
Right.
Thank you so much. All right. And our last friends here are some of our most featured friends as well. But we actually have the people here who take care of our amazing giraffes behind us.
Okay, hi. So my name is Allie and I'm a seasonal keeper here at the Toronto Zoo. And right now I work mainly with the giraffes. But this is out in outer Savannah. So I also work with lions, hyenas, hippos, what else am I missing? Southern ground hornbills. All in just like some capacity, but mainly the giraffes, which I love. I feel like I'm so lucky to work with them. And I feel like I'm sorry, I also forgot lions. So yeah, I feel like it's one of my favorite things about working with them is that these are all animals that like you would only typically see in the wild, and not everyone is as lucky to be able to go see them out there. So these are animals that you get to come and see here, and they're such sweethearts. When it comes to looking after them, we do everything from like feeding them to cleaning their exhibits, setting up enrichment. Some of us do training, and just anything that kind of just like it entails looking after even just like a pet. You can kind of translate that to looking after these bigger animals. Yeah, and so to get to this position, I was originally working. First I went to school for wildlife biology and conservation at the University of Guelph, and then I knew I wanted to work with animals. I didn't know I wanted to be a zookeeper at first. So I went into working at a wildlife rehab for a few months and got some animal care experience. Then I went into the education department at Ridley's Aquarium downtown. And then from there, I knew I wanted to work with animals at that point. So I knew that I was fully qualified with my education and now my animal care experience. So I applied to the Toronto Zoo, and that's how I got here. So far in my career, I've worked in the Outreach and Discovery Department. I've worked in Australasia, and now Outer Savannah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's such a cool opportunity to be able to see all the different staff that we have here. And usually I'm alone during these broadcasts, but since I have friends with me today, I'm actually going to have them be my filmers, which is a rarity. Usually I'm selfieing the camera on myself. I've definitely told my story here before, being at the Toronto Zoo and being a part of so many of these amazing, wonderful videos. But my name is Mary Ellen. I work in the Learning and Engagement or Education Department here at the zoo. And I actually have two kind of roles. In the off season, I'm developing and coordinating all of our programs. And then in the on season or busy season that we have here in the summer, I am the one supervising a lot of our zoo camp programs, bush camp programs, and delivering educational content like these as well. So all of our programs that we do with Sarah and Jesse and Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. And it's one of my most favorite parts of my job is getting to bring the zoo here in Toronto to anybody watching it. Because I know that our guests watching it maybe aren't able to come in person to the zoo and see these animals up close. And even just from the limited time that we get to spend on camera with them, I'm sure that you can see how amazing and magical they are to see and why we should want to all be guardians of wild together and protect these species. And as we work together, that is possible. Now, my background here, in my department, there's a lot of teachers and educators, as Maya and Hannah were saying. They're both aiming for that later on in life, which is very exciting. I always wanted to be a teacher, but I didn't know if I wanted to be a classroom teacher per se. And I was really lucky to be able to go to Trent University for an environmental science degree. And then I happened to find a job here for a seasonal posting about 9 years ago. I actually just celebrated my 9-year anniversary about a week and a half ago here of being at the zoo. And I found a job to be a camp counselor. And it was the best decision I ever made in my life. And from then on, I've just worked my way up in my department to now supervise the programs that I started running here 9 years ago, which is very exciting. So anything can truly happen. And there's so many different opportunities here at the zoo that allow you to be a part of this amazing conservation facility. And again, trying to be a guardian of wild. So Sarah, we're going to turn the camera onto our giraffes and over to our audience as well here. And we are able to start taking some questions. I can definitely talk about the giraffes way more if we want to or need to, but I also love to be able to give enough time, especially at our final program of the season, to make sure that we can ask or get asked as many questions that come in.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mary Ellen. Yeah, we have a few questions that are coming in, so I'm sure we can learn some more off the cuff when the questions come through about these drafts, because it's just so great to see them on video right now. They're adorable. So why don't we jump to some of our classrooms and see if we have some questions there. I'm going to head to Miss Baraja's classroom here. I'm going to bring you guys in if you have any questions.
Okay, and Julian, what's your question?
Hi, how's everyone today?
How do giraffes survive in the winter?
Oh, how do they survive in the winter? Yeah, great question. So outside right now, you can see it's really nice, bright and sunny. It's quite warm here. I'm not sure the exact temperature in Toronto today, but it's probably around 20 degrees, 25 degrees right now. And the giraffes are absolutely loving it. But if I were to turn around right now, you might see this very large building behind me. And even more conveniently is what we like to call a giraffe-sized door over there. And essentially, we do have an indoor holding space that our giraffes can go inside in the wintertime. They still get lots of airflow. We can open the door up and give them access to their smaller paddock. But they're able to live inside. We have a variety of rooms for them, sometimes together, sometimes separate. It depends on what they're feeling like. Maybe they're eating, they have to get vet work done with them. So they can be separated or grouped together. And it also depends on how many giraffes we have at a current time. A rule of thumb that we like to go with, and this is for a lot of hoof stock or kind of any really outdoor animal farms use this as well, is about 10 degrees Celsius consistently is kind of the threshold for a lot of animals like this. Once we start seeing 10 degrees Celsius and warmer, that's when you're going to start to see them come outside more frequently.
Awesome. We have some questions coming in from our YouTube live stream. We got this one a few times actually, and folks want to know, how much does a giraffe need to eat each day?
Whoa, good question. So how much does a giraffe need to eat each day in order to sustain their size? Now that can be a little tricky to answer for a couple reasons. We have a male and a female currently in front of us, Kiko and Mistari. They're both adults. So they were born in 2012 and 2013. So they definitely are full grown giraffes at this point. But we just announced a little while ago that Mistari's actually pregnant. So her food increase has probably gone up a little bit, I'd imagine, maybe, or it's going to as she gets more pregnant. But do we have an exact number, my keepers? It's great when we have keepers here.
So Mistari, the one who's pregnant, the one her head is down here. She's about 2.6 kilograms of pellets, and then Kiko, he eats about just over 4 kilograms. And with hay, between the two of them, they eat about 50 pounds of hay.
There we go. So they eat probably as much hay as maybe the average third grader kid for size there for a comparison. And if you were to pick up like a dumbbell or a weight at a gym, they're probably eating about 5 pounds or 10 pounds of food and a weight.
Awesome. Okay, let's jump to another class here. We have VCCS. I think you guys are grade 2s. I'm not sure. Let's find out. Can you guys tell me, what grade are we talking to today?
Grade 2.
Grade 2. How is everyone doing?
Good.
Awesome. Do we have any questions for the zoo?
We got a question from Johan, who's coming up here. Oh, gotta go back there, Johan.
How old are the giraffes?
Oh, good question. Yeah, so I did mention that they're adult giraffes. Kiko was born in 2012, so that makes him, let's do some quick math. He's born in the fall of 2012, so he is 13 years old. And Mistari was born in 2013, so that makes her 12 years old right now.
Thank you.
Super awesome. All right, let's head to another class here. I'm going to bring in, I think, grade 3s here. I'm not sure if you guys are ready for a question, but I wanted to pop in and say hey to see if there's anything.
We were curious, in the wild, what are the predators of the giraffes?
Oh, great question. Yeah, so we didn't get to mention yet, but you might be able to tell on camera here, but they are quite tall creatures, very tall, very long-legged. So once they are full grown, they can grow up to like 16 to 18 feet. To give a comparison, as an adult, I'm 6 feet tall, so it would be like me as an adult human plus myself on top of my shoulders, plus like a kid on top of their shoulders. It would be a very tall tower. They'd be wild to see. So they're quite large. They also weigh several hundred pounds, possibly even 1,000 pounds if we're getting into it here. So once they're full grown, they are pretty safe. It would take a large pride of lions to be able to take down a fully grown adult giraffe. And they're not really going to go for that too often. And that's because of the things down here on the ground. Giraffes have some pretty strong hooves, and they have those nice long legs that are very powerful at kicking. They can actually kill a lion if they get a well-placed kick in, and they can kind of run them over. So lions are not going to take that option up unless they really have to. Maybe for a sick older giraffe, but definitely not someone like Kiko or Mistari here. But truly, what the most time they're at risk is when they are babies. They are only about 6 feet tall, so the height of an adult human, and they weigh about 200 pounds when they're first born. So quite a bit smaller than their mom or their dad, and they can be attacked by things like lions or hyenas or predated on that way. So when they're full grown, they're pretty safe, but when they're babies, they do have to watch out for some larger carnivores.
Awesome. Okay, let's head to Miss Hurley's grade 7. I know your guys' camera isn't on, but I'm going to jump in. Maybe you guys can ask a question on the mic.
Go ahead. Does the zoo have any programs for endangered species?
Yes, we do. Sorry, I'm trying to see if anyone in my panel here. I feel bad nobody's getting a question about their job, but I'll keep going for answers here. There's lots of programs. So the zoo does a lot of work with different accredited facilities all over North America, where we work for species survival plans, which is about breeding animals to make sure we have a healthy genetic population for them of endangered species. We also work with organizations like the Cheetah Fund as well, that works with cheetahs in Africa to help protect them. We also have partnerships with organizations like Planet Madagascar, who work with endangered species of lemurs in Madagascar, which is really cool. So there's lots of different ones out there. Locally, we help our native Blandings turtles with a Head Start program. They're also an endangered species. And we have historically as well been a part of black-footed ferret and eastern loggerhead shrike breeding and a reintroduction program with them as well. So there's lots going on. If you ever want to learn more about it, I encourage you or your parents to follow us on social media, check out our website, and if you're able to come to the zoo for a program or zoo camp as well, anything like that. Also, if you can't do any of those things, that's totally okay. Feel free to watch any of our videos that we've done with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. They're all on their website, on the Toronto Zoo's Facebook and Instagram and YouTube pages as well. We talk a lot about some of our more specific programs as we go in depth around the zoo.
Awesome. Yes, you guys are a wealth of information and organizations. And you brought up a great point, Mary Ellen. There's still like that whole team that we have been introduced to behind the scenes. So if anyone has any questions about career development or how they got to where they are a little bit more specifically, don't forget to feel free to ask those questions as well. We're going to jump to the grade 1s and 2s. Your camera's not on either, but maybe you guys might have a question. You've joined just with audio. So I'm going to unmute your mic. Miss Nicholas's class, and maybe you guys would like to ask a question.
Hi guys, so we are in our virtual world right now, and we actually had a similar question that I think was already answered about how tall they can grow.
You want to know how tall?
I think we've covered, and yeah, so they just asked how tall they can grow and how heavy they can get to, both of which I think you've covered.
Yeah, definitely. I can go over it again, though, here. I was a little vague with it. So we have Maasai giraffes here at the Toronto Zoo, and they are the tallest species of giraffe. But there are several different types of giraffe species. But on average, they're growing between probably around 13 or 14 feet tall to up to 18 feet tall. Kiko's definitely our tallest male that we have here. He's back in the corner over there. He's just over 16 feet tall, I believe. And Mastari's a little bit shorter than that. And then when they're born, they are only about 6 feet tall, so quite a bit smaller, and they've got a lot of growing to do as they get bigger. And then they can weigh a couple thousand pounds as well, so about the weight of a small car.
Wow, I'm sure that car has good gas mileage. All right, we're going to head to Miss Baraja's class one more time. If you guys have a question, feel free. Lots of hands there. Hi, everyone. Any questions?
Yeah, we're coming with our questions.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
The giraffe is very interested.
Can giraffes attack people?
Oh, can they attack people? That's a really good question. So they are definitely still a wild animal, and we do have to be very careful with our animals here at the zoo. They are definitely still wild, and any animal with a mouth or anything with a mouth can have the potential to bite or harm a person. So you always have to be really careful. For a lot of our animals here at the zoo, you'll notice that there is still a barrier with them here. And where we're standing, we are all staff members right now, and we're standing in a special behind the scenes area. But the actual public is standing way back over there behind a secondary moat as well. So if you came to the zoo, you wouldn't be this close to the giraffes, and that's just for protection. Even though giraffes are herbivores, so they're not going to eat any meat, which means they would not consume humans for food, there's still the potential that we could be hurt by them, even if they're not meaning to. Mastari, our female giraffe, is a little bit more skittish than our male giraffe, Kiko. She's a little bit more nervous, a little bit more cautious, likes to check things out. So even if she didn't mean to, if we scared her by accident, she could maybe kick us. We have to be really careful of their heads. They have massive heads, and while we're standing in this area, they could reach out and accidentally hit us with their head, which would not be fun for anyone involved. So although they're probably not going to go out of their way to attack us, they are definitely still an animal that we need to watch out for. Just be cautious, be careful. And the keepers always have, second set of eyes. They have multiple safety precautions in place to make sure we're never in that kind of a situation. Good question, though. If you see a giraffe in the wild, though, please give them space.
Amazing. All right, we have a class asking a question through YouTube. They want to know why do giraffes have spots?
Ooh, yeah. I love that question. So why do giraffes have spots? There's sometimes different debates that happen out there in the world about why animals have different markings. It can be part of a thermoregulation discussion, which we actually have a video on your channel, Sarah, all about animal thermoregulation and why they need it. So how they keep their bodies hot or cold when they're out and about living their lives. So there's conversation behind their spots. Draw in warmth from the sun, and then the other lighter areas maybe reduce the heat. And then there's also a camouflage element to it as well. So even though right now there's no trees around, so they kind of stick out like a sore thumb, for lack of better words, it's easy to spot them here, no pun intended. But in the wild, when they're in with the trees and all the branches, their spots actually do help them blend in. Something that's a little bit unique, though, for them is if you look down at your hand right now and take a look at your fingertips, and then if you have a friend next to you, you can do a little experiment and try and compare your fingerprints to each other. And you'll notice that yours are unique to you. Those are only your fingerprints. Nobody else in the world has them just like you. And a giraffe is the same way. So they have their own set of spots. And actually the ones on their chest and kind of markings on their body can be used to help identify them from each other in the wild, which is pretty cool. So scientists and researchers who are tracking giraffe populations can take photos of them and then compare them so they know which giraffe they're looking at.
That's super cool. I had no idea, and I had never even questioned why do giraffes have spots. So thank you for that. Let's head to our grade 2s again and see if you guys have any more questions. Hi, grade 2s.
Hey, we've got a question from Joel.
I have a question. Which one is pregnant?
Which one is pregnant? Was that the question, Joel?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So Mastari is our female, and she's pregnant. And I believe it's actually her in front of us right now, which is fantastic because she is a little bit more skittish. So the fact that she's hanging out with us here. So this one right in front of us coming down to say hello. This one is our pregnant giraffe. And if I remember correctly, she's due in February or so of 2026. Yeah, so they have a very long gestation. It's about 13 to 15 months or so. So they are pregnant for a very long time. So she'll be cooking that baby up for quite a long time now.
Super cool. I'm going to be selfish and ask one question here. Do giraffes have cravings the same way that human pregnancies do?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, I just got word from our keepers here that she is just always hungry. So it may not be craving the same way that we do, but you'll definitely see them an increase of maybe food or intake. But the Mastari apparently is a big foodie. They get browse, they get pellets, they often get carrots. I know they like beets as well, sweet potatoes, lettuce, and they do get as well some popcorn sometimes as an enrichment treat to help them use their tongue to forage, which is pretty cool.
Wow, eating for two. Okay,
Exactly.
Let's head to the grade 3s one more time here. Hi, grade 3s. Do you guys have another question for us?
Yes. Why do giraffes have horns?
Yeah, why do they have horns? You might be able to see if Mastari comes back over to check us out here. We can get a good look at them. She's got two kind of bumps on top of her head. Those are actually called ossicones. And again, there's sometimes kind of a debate on what they're used for per se. They can be used, again, some people think about thermoregulation, so blood can circulate through them and help them cool off. But a way that you can actually tell male and female giraffes apart from a distance is their ossicones. So Mastari's ossicones are nice and furry. They've got fluff all over them here. But Kiko, who's checking us out from over there, his are actually bald all over. And that's because male giraffes rub them on things, and they also use them for fighting. So Kiko doesn't have anyone to spar with right now. He's the only male. But in the wild, they would have some interaction with other male giraffes, and they would fight over territory or females, and use their ossicones to help defend their area.
Very cool. All right, so Maddie in grade 2, this is coming from Miss Nicholas's class. They want to know how long the giraffes usually live for.
Yeah, that's a good question. Giraffes can usually live up into their 20s and 30s or so is on average. And I know that Jesse and I talk about this a lot with our programs that we do here, but here at the Toronto Zoo, because they have access to full nutrition, there's no predation for them, so they don't have to worry about a lion coming out and taking them out. And they also have access to our vet care, our nutritionists, our reproductive specialists, everything like that. We often are able to extend the life of certain species who do super well in captivity and able to provide them with extra vet care that might help them in, later in life as they get older in the wild. They might have a harder time gaining access to food and resources, but here at the zoo, we would still be able to provide them with those resources to make sure they can live a long and healthy life with us here. And I think, Sarah, just based on our timing out here today, we probably got time for two more questions.
All right, fantastic. So we had a question come in through the chat and asked a few times by folks. They want to know, how did the giraffes end up being in captivity? Were they born or moved into the zoo?
Great question. So I know historically there's a lot of confusion with zoos just because in the history of zoos, it was unfortunate times where people would go out into the wild and take live animals and bring them back into zoos and captivities. We do not do that anymore. All of our species that you meet here at the zoo, especially like our giraffes like this, they are born in captivity. Mastari was actually born here at the zoo to her mom, and Kiko came from somewhere in the States, I believe, from us. So he came up to be a partner for Mastari specifically, to be her mating partner. Other ways that we might get animals here at the zoo is from other zoos. They're born here, or sometimes we do take in animals who are surrendered from situations that were maybe not so great homes. For example, we've talked about in the past, we've had a raccoon that came from a seized situation that was living in someone's house. We've had birds before surrendered who were pets that they outlived their previous owners, unfortunately, and they had nowhere else to go as an exotic species. So we do work with other organizations to ensure that we can always find a loving place for an animal to live out its days.
Amazing. Great. Well, thank you so much for your knowledge. Thank you so much for sharing a bit more about what's going on behind the scenes at the Toronto Zoo. It's so cool to get to meet your team, to get to know the giraffes here, and to learn a lot more about them. Is there any way that the classrooms that are joining could learn more about what's going on at the Toronto Zoo or anything like that we could recommend them?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Here, I'll turn the camera back on myself here for our closing thoughts. We always like to say that even just being a part of our program today is helping these species. There's so much that we work towards here at the Toronto Zoo to help conservation. I encourage everyone to go follow us on social media, learn about all the endangered species that we're helping, all the ways that you can help out, maybe do a local cleanup, watch some of these videos, tell your friends about giraffes, learn about all the different ways that we can help species, and know that each and every one of us has an impact on the world around us. Our goal every day should make the most positive impact that we can make in the world around us. And together we can all be guardians of wild and help protect all of these beautiful, amazing species who call the Toronto Zoo their home and more. We can protect their world, our world, and together we can have a brighter future.
Amazing. Amazing last words there. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time today, Mary Ellen, and thank you so much for all the classes that joined us. We had some great questions, and if you guys want to learn more, you can look up the Toronto Zoo on Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants YouTube page and see more videos there.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.